This is section 3.4, solve equations with variables on both sides. Our procedure is going to be very similar to what we've been doing. We're just going to add an additional step. So the first thing you have to do, if you see parentheses, you have to distribute. Then, any like terms, you have to combine all your like terms. The next step is where it gets a little bit different. You're going to have variables on both sides. So that means you have an x, for example, on one side and the other. So before you can solve for x, you have to get it down to just one x to solve for. So you're going to collect all of the variable terms on one side of the equation and the constant terms on the other side of the equation. And then everything follows as normal. So add or subtract first, then multiply or divide. So let's try an example. Notice now there's a negative 8x on one side of the equation and a 4x on the other. So before I can solve for x, I have to get those together. It doesn't matter which one you want to move to the other, but I tend to avoid negatives, so if I can ever add, I try to add first. So if I add 8x to both sides, 7 equals 4x plus 8x is 12x. And now it looks just like a normal equation. So I'm going to add 17 to both sides. 7 plus 17 gives me 24. Opposite operation of multiplication is division. Divide both sides by 12. 24 divided by 12 is 2. Now, I definitely want to check my answer, so again, x equals 2. Let's plug it in to make sure. 7 minus 8 times 2 equals 4 times 2 minus 17. So 8 times 2, that's 7 minus 16. 4 times 2 is 8. 7 minus 16 is negative 9. 8 minus 17 is also negative 9. So that tells me I did it right. To give you another example, notice this time we have parentheses, so we're going to have to distribute first. And that 4 will go nicely into the 16 and the 60. So in this case, I am going to distribute instead of using the reciprocal. So I still have my 9x minus 5. 1/4 times 16x, if you don't know that, go ahead and write it out. So 16x divided by 4 plus 60 over 4. 16x divided by 4 leaves me with 4x. 60 divided by 4 is 15. And this now looks like the other example we did. So I'm going to go ahead and move the 4x over to with the 9x. That leaves me with 5x minus 5 equals 15. Add 5 to both sides, and you get 5x equals 20. 20 divided by 5 is 4. Now, just to make sure, I want to check. So again, I have x equals 4. 9 times 4 minus 5 equals 1/4. 16 times 4 plus 60. Well, 9 times 4, that's 36 minus 5. 1/4. 16 times 4 is 64. 36 minus 5 is 31. 64 plus 60 is 124. And 1/4 of 124, if you don't know that off the top of your head. 4 into 124 goes in, well, 4 goes into 12 3 times, 4 goes into 1 once, 4 goes into 4 once, so it is indeed 31. Our only new vocabulary word in this section is identity. which is just a type of equation that is true for all values of the variable. So the solution of an identity would just be all real numbers. So let's look more specifically at our special cases. So your only special cases are going to be either an identity or an equation that has no solution. Again, an identity is an equation that's true for all real numbers. An equation with no solution just means it's an equation that's not true. So let's look at an example of each one. If you have this equation, first thing you're going to do is distribute. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 5 is 10. Now, you might be able to look at that and realize that the solution is all real numbers. Anything you plug in for x, both sides are always going to be equal. But out of habit, you might start trying to solve. So if that's the case, let's see what happens. Well, 2x minus 2x on this side is also just 0. And that's the same thing as 10. And 10 does equal 10. So because it gives us a true statement, our answer is just going to be all real numbers. Our other special case is no solution. So again, if I see this equation, the first thing I'm going to do is distribute. 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 4 is 12. Now, if I saw this, I would be trying to get all my variable terms on one side. Well, again, 3x minus 3x is 0, but this time it's telling me that 0 equals 12, which I hope we realize is absolutely not true. So if this happens, the only thing you have to write for your answer is no solution. And that's it for this section.